Mental health has proven to be one of the most leading factors affecting youth and adults, not only in Botswana but the whole world at large. Today's guest is going to be none other than a survivor and an activist of mental health issues. Don't go anywhere, let's disencumber. Okay, maybe you can just start off by introducing yourself and taking us through your journey of mental health.
My name is Sokofala Nakafela Bibiza. I'm an HR consultant. I'm a trained speaker. I run my own talk show on Facebook called Life at Seho, and I'm a mental health activist.
Okay, so Seho, can you please take us through your discovery of the mental health and how it was, just everything really from the start?
I would say I was very ignorant about depression and all other mental health diseases until I went through it, which is around 2018 when I started getting sick. I was struggling to sleep. I had these constant tension headaches that could only go away if I took tension headache medication. Sometimes I would black out when I'm driving. I would move from one point to another and I would not remember how I got from the other point to the other point. I was emotional. I started isolating. I started gaining weight, a lot of weight. I could not control the weight. I wasn't eating right. Everything was, I was just a mess. I became a shadow of the person I used to be. I could not understand why. So I went to the doctor. I told him everything that was happening. And then he highlighted that maybe I am going through depression. At that point, I didn't really understand it much. So he sent me to a psychologist. We got to talk, and she's the one who told me I was going through mild depression.
So how long did it take for you to really accept after checking in with the doctor?
I would say the first session after she told me, it sent me into even more severe depression because I got depressed over the fact that I have depression.
Yeah.
I felt like something was wrong with me. Why would I go through this? God, why? Why me? Why? Because I think the other thing was because I was so ignorant about it. I didn't even know it was very common. Like I thought I was one of those few people going through this, and how am I going to deal with this? This was something so foreign to me. So I got a bit worse before I started accepting it and deciding to embrace the fact that I need to handle this head on.
If I recall very well, you're still so committed in church or no during that time, right?
Yes.
And you know, these days there's this thing that we hold as Christians that there's nothing that God cannot solve. So being a Mamuruti, believing that okay, like a lot of people often believe, correct, this can be solved by just a deliverance session, can be solved by just, you know, taking in. How did you go about that? How did you go around that?
I think, yeah, they told me that some people would say, you know, you just need to pray, as if I wasn't praying enough. I had been praying all these years, but I still got into depression.
Yeah.
I still prayed after I was told I was going through it, and it was not addressing certain issues because this is a deep psychological issue. So I knew, okay, I can pray to God because I need the strength. I need the strength from God to do that. But for me to literally deal with this, I need specialists. Because truth be told, God is the one who gives people the wisdom for them to be in certain professions. God gives you the wisdom to be a lawyer. There's something he puts inside you. He gives you the wisdom to be a doctor. God also gave the wisdom to psychologists so that they can help us with these things. So we cannot say what God has put in someone is not good enough and think prayer is the only way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, how had this mental state affected your life, your profession, your family life, and every other aspect of your life?
Before I took a decision to deal with it, I saw like literally every aspect of my life crumbling. I was a shadow at home. My kids couldn't even enjoy having me as their mother. One of my businesses like went straight to the ground. I had had to sell everything and close it because I wasn't coping. Up until I decided to literally go for counseling whenever I was supposed to go for counseling, taking my medication, my antidepressants, sleeping pills so that I can function. That's when my life started slowly going back to be normal. And that's why I added the fitness routine, because they said it helps with releasing the happy hormone, because for you to be depressed you are not releasing enough of that. That is why you need the medication. So I was using the medication, I was working out, I was eating right, so that I can work on making sure I have a lot of that hormone and I become functional, and I would become less dependent on medication, especially the tension medication pills and the sleeping pills.
Okay. So, career-wise, besides it crumbling your business, how deep was it?
It was deep because even at home, like I was saying, I was just a shadow, and then I would constantly get sick. Like your body becomes so weak. Just one thing makes you so sick. So I was constantly very sick. You know, my ulcers got so worse because I also have a problem with ulcers. So when you're too stressed, it becomes a lot even more. My hormones got messed up. They said I had hormonal imbalance because I gained so much weight. And because I gained so much weight, my hormones got messed up. My hormones getting messed up, and seeing myself balloon and change the way I had changed made me even more depressed.
Okay. I once came across one of your podcast. I don't know if I should call it a podcast or what.
Yeah.
In Life with Seho, where you're actually highlighting on how this had also a bit of effect in your marriage, with women throwing tantrums at you,
Yeah.
and even coming in through your husband. Can you take us through that as well?
I would say a lot of people, I think, around us could literally see I was withdrawing. I wasn't going outgoing that much. I wasn't going to certain places with him. I hated being out there. I couldn't even dress up nicely because I felt I didn't look good because I was so big, you know. So some people would use it as as something to attack me with. They would literally say, your wife thinks she's better than other people. She's not outgoing. She does not want you to be around other people. She doesn't want to do this. She's trying to control you. Why? Because I would not want to go to certain places and he would want to go. Because of my condition, I couldn't go. I did not want to be around people. So people will literally try to use that against me, like use my mental condition against me, to disqualify me as a woman, to disqualify me as a mother, to disqualify me as a wife. Why? Because people, they have this belief that you have to be strong as a woman, and your strength is you allowing yourself to go through so much and not taking care of yourself. And if you show people that you are not coping, they call it names, because that's how ignorant our people are about
And they're
mental
always
health.
so quick to
Yeah,
put in tags.
yeah.
Okay. Right about now, we're going to go for a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to continue this encountering on Seho's mental health journey. Don't go anywhere, stay tuned. This Heart and Soul with Carol right here. In case you're just joining us, this is Heart and Soul with Carol, and today in studio I'm joined by the beautiful Seho, who is taking us through her mental health journey. Um, okay, so now you have been diagnosed, you have started medication, you've been changed a few patterns of your lifestyle. Take us through the journey to the real recovery now.
I think I would say most of the time the biggest thing you need to do for you to recover is to accept. You just need to accept, okay, I have this problem. It is not a dead end. Life is too long. There's somehow I can cope with this. And then you just follow everything they tell you. The more you do that, the easier it becomes for you to go back to living normally. Because the first thing I needed to do was learning how to go out again. Because there was a time whereby I hated going out. I needed to make sure I go out. I made sure also that I talked to my husband, I talked to my parents, I talked to my kids, explaining to them my condition so that they understand why certain days I'm like this, certain days I'm like that. Because I remember even one of my first few sessions, one of them I took my husband, because I needed them to explain to him what is happening to me scientifically, mentally, psychologically, everything, so that he can have a better understanding of what I'm going through. That was the only way he could be supportive of me, because the biggest thing you also need is support. Part of the support is for the people you stay with, people around you, to create an environment that enables you
That is
to
conducive
heal.
for that.
He needed to understand why there are going to be times whereby, because I told him, the psychologist said, go back, try doing everything that makes you happy. And part of the thing that makes me happy, unfortunately, is me spending some of the money on certain things he doesn't get.
Yeah.
So I needed for him to understand that some days I will walk into an art shop, I'll buy palettes because I'm a painter. I'll go home and paint. I'll paint and I wouldn't even know where I'm taking this painting. But I need to do that to make me happy.
Yeah.
I went back to the studio. I used to be in music, but behind the scenes, like only managing artists. One day I said, you know what, I need to go back to writing songs, and this time around write for myself. I went back and I did that, and it meant money coming out of our house.
Yeah.
So I had to make sure he understood that I am going to be doing certain things. Some of them I'm going to be taking money from the house, and maybe you don't get why. It doesn't make any sense
Sense
to
to
you,
him.
but you need to understand it makes sense to me.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was the biggest thing I had to do, to make sure everyone around me, I take them through my journey, make them understanding.
So how was their taking in of the situation, and how long did it take for them to really get to terms with understanding and familiarizing themselves with the new things that had to be introduced in order for you to heal?
I would say it took a bit of time, because these people were used to me being all over. I would be doing this and that and this and that, and then all of a sudden I cannot do all those things anymore. I have to take things slowly. With my kids, it was a bit different. The kids are so empathetic. The only thing I would have to say to them when I needed space was that, guys, I have a headache.
And then
When I said I have a headache, they understood. Oh, mommy told us she's sick, and every time she's really down, she'll have a headache. So they would give me my space. I would go to the room if I want to sleep. I would even hear them shouting at each other, "You're making noise, mommy's sleeping. She's sick."
yeah.
So with my kids, it was a bit easier. But with the adults, looking at how our society is, how they expect me as a married woman to be out there, go manyalong, and acting a certain way, being all over working, and then some days I would literally just want to sit away from everyone.
Yeah.
So it took a bit of time.
So how has life been since you started your treatment, since you started changing patterns to better suit your healing journey?
I would say I have reached a point whereby now this is manageable. It's no longer now depression. I would say now it's basically me dealing with anxiety, because it never literally just goes away. It's only that now you become so in control. You understand the things that trigger you. I understand what triggers me. I avoid those things. I understand the people who brought this into my life. I cut them off. Like literally, I cut people off. If you're not good for my mental health, I cut you off. If a certain place brings me anxiety, I don't go there. And I make sure people around me, they understand you don't have to force me to go there.
Definitely.
Because now I have learned that part of the reason why I ended up depressed was the fact that I was not standing up for myself. I was trying too hard to please people, and in the process I hurt myself. So now I have learned to put me first. And
Before
because of
everyone.
that, I'm fully functional. I can go for months without medication. The only times I usually go back is when there's a certain change in my life and it's stressing me. Like the past few months, I was leaving my job. I was dealing with so much anxiety, the unknown. What is going to happen? What does my life mean? I had to go back and get medication because now I was scared. The anxiety was too much. I did that, took the medication until I was now calm. Sleeping nowadays, waking out helps me sleep a lot.
That's great to hear. So what would you say is the greatest challenge that you've come across while going through this entire process?
The biggest challenge was people not knowing what depression is. That was the biggest challenge for me, because I was working with people who did not understand that some of the days I will need to go home because I don't want to be around them. I would get a sick leave because I'm going through, maybe my mind is not coping because I'm overwhelmed, and the doctor would give me a sick leave. And people would say, but she was just okay. What do you mean she's on sick leave? Why?
Yeah,
Because people,
definitely.
they don't understand that there are certain diseases that you don't see on the outside.
Yeah.
It is within me, it's within myself. I'm the only person who can tell you I'm not okay. So I had to deal with that. People did not know what this thing is. And because people don't know what it is, they called it names. Because they called it names, they did not create an environment for me to survive. So I had to force my way. That's why I decided to start the mental health activism. Because I needed people to understand people like me. Because most of the time you are even scared to speak because you think you're going to be called names by people who don't understand what this is.
You know, having mentioned that, take us now through the inception of life with Sipho. How has it been? How has the public been towards you since you started publicly speaking up and speaking out about your life and everything?
I would think it's one of the best things I ever had to do for myself, because now everyone understands where I come from. And then the second biggest thing that I really appreciate about starting this and is having other people now realizing they also need help.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of people reaching out. I've had to sit down with some people, talk. I've had to send them, some of them to some psychologists. Some I've sent them to the UB psychology clinics. You know, just I've had a lot of people reaching out. I've had a lot of people now coming to the realization that they have the same problem and they went out to get help. And that is the biggest thing for me. I wanted to start this so that people can be aware what this is, so that they can get help, so that they can go back to living their lives fully. Because when you have depression, you will never live your life fully.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, now you've been so active on social media, and you've even faced a lot of criticism when it comes to some of the things that you choose to share. How has that been? How have you been reacting to that? How has it affected you? Mostly from people who claim to be staunch Christians.
You know, one thing I have learned through the whole process of me dealing with depression, because I go for counseling, and it does not mean every day I go that we are talking about my depression. We talk about a lot of things. We talk about life. We talk about people around us. You know, we talk about a lot about how someone's mind works.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest thing I have learned is that most people who criticize are people criticizing from their insecurities.
Definitely.
So I'm not going to allow anyone who is not dealing with their insecurities to tell me how I should be doing something.
Definitely.
I would listen to someone who comes to me criticizing constructively. That is someone who is saying it out of the goodness of their heart. And most people, there's something my husband once said that I will never forget. There was a time he told me that, you know what, most of these people who always feel like you say a lot, you talk a lot, you do this, you take photos like this and that,
Yeah.
are people who wish they had the confidence you have
Definitely.
to do that. They don't have the confidence, so they have to attack what you do. But the bottom line is, what you're doing, you're not doing it to hurt anyone. You don't call anyone out. It is just you living your own life, allowing me to be a part of it, and that's it. And I was like, thank you. At least you get it. The rest, I don't care who doesn't get it or who does.
Yeah, and I should commend your husband for such support, because you know our society is full of men by Longkhore. They want to have so much control on what their woman wears, on what she says on social media and stuff like that. And I haven't really seen that with your husband.
I call it toxic masculinity.
Thank you.
It is embedded in patriarchy. And this patriarchy is the same reason why a lot of women are depressed in their marriages. Because you are told you should die. The person you were before you got married should die. And then you should assume the role of someone you don't even know.
Definitely.
People, they don't take marriage as you being new and then going to meet someone and work as on what you used to be to become more of someone.
Yeah.
They want everything you have done for 30 years before you got married to vanish.
Just die out.
And then you become this person. And then we think we'll have happy marriages and happy kids. No. You will never be happy as long as you do not live the life that tells us who you are. I am not saying you don't mature. You mature at who you are.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I was telling my husband the other time, because my husband, we met here at UB. We were classmates. So I tell him, you remember when you met me, I used to wear low cuts, like literally low cuts.
Yeah.
I've matured. I still show skin, but I don't wear low cuts anymore.
Yeah.
I only mostly show just this part of my skin if I want to wear something that is revealing. So it changes. You mature, but still being who you are. Yeah.
So it doesn't have to change your real you.
You shouldn't, because the moment you lose the person that the man fell in love with, he is going to look for that woman somewhere else.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that should explain why there's a lot of
Yeah.
cheating and all these things in marriages these days.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you now take us through how you've been since you've overcome this ordeal? Because by judging with social media, we can really see that you're doing well, you're happy, you're bubbly, and that's a really nice thing. So can you just take us through the entire thing now?
I would say, my life has gone back to normal, but obviously certain things are not there anymore because I had to unlearn certain hobbies, certain attitudes that made me depressed, that led me to depression. So I have gone back to being me, but now the person I was when I was depressed and the person I am now, the person I am now is the person I was when I was still young. I literally went back and fetched myself before society told me who I should be.
Yeah, how you should
Before
be as a
people
married
broke me.
woman.
I just told my husband, you know what, I'm going back to the person I was when you met me at UB. And that was over 15 years ago. That's the person I decided to fetch. Brought her back and said, this is the woman you loved, this is the woman you're getting. The one society told me I should be as not me, and I'm not going to be that person. And if anyone does not accept that person, they can leave. I'm not going to allow myself back into depression, trying to fit into a society that does not care about a woman's happiness.
Definitely. Oh, and having mentioned where you met your husband, happy late anniversary. Okay, can you now take us through how things have been marriage-wise, family-wise, and everything just to do with your life since this great recovery?
I would say I think things are better than before, even before the depression, because during the depression I learned a lot about myself and about marriage. So we went back to the drawing board. Me and my husband, we went back to the drawing board and say, dude, what did make us happy back in the days before people, because when you get married, people, they want to come in. People come in with their opinions. Society comes in and they tell you how to run your marriage. But and then with time you realize that you are boring one another. You are even boring yourself. So we went back to the drawing board. We decided to now go back, do our marriage the way we want, not the way society is telling us.
Okay, thank you so much, Soko, for sharing your story with us. I believe our viewers are so inspired. They've learned a lot.
Thank you so
And
much.
any one of them who is actually still suffering will actually, this should be a wake-up call for them to take action.
There is hope.
So any last words to our viewers and to anyone who's still struggling with this issue?
I would say my last words would be, your mental health is your diamond. It is the reason why you progress. It is the reason why you are functional. How you love your kids comes from your mental strength. How you prosper in business comes from your mental strength. How sociable and how people would love you comes from what you give within yourself. So it is up to you to take control of your mental health. Get help if you have to. Because if you don't get help, you will never live to the full potential of the life that God meant you to live.
Okay, thank you so much, Soko. It was lovely having you here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, that was it for today's episode in Heart and Soul with Carol. Be sure to tune in again next time right here in Heart and Soul with Carol, with your girl Caroline Basupi. It was such lovely having you guys. Take action against your mental health. Don't let it kill you before you do something about it. Thank you so much, guys. Till we meet again next time.